Welcome to this edition of the Gaming Tailgate podcast. I am Chris, and joining me is Tommy. We're here with a lot of news, especially as it relates to Dynasty mode in NCAA Football 12. Great news, these features all can be implemented in Online Dynasty, changing how you play in your Online Dynasty. Let's get to the big features first. First off, the last two NCAA Football Community Wishlist Tournament Championship items will be coming to NCAA Football 12, Coaching Carousel and Custom Playbooks. Let's get right into Coaching Carousel. This is a big item that a lot of people, they didn't think we'd see this until NCAA 13 or 14. It begins in NCAA Football 12. The basics, you can start with a new or existing coach, and that includes an offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator. In the game, they do not have the coach's license, but you can edit your coaches. You can edit their prestige, their appearance, their alma mater. Very recently, a high prestige coach resigned, so now you can go in the game and maybe remove that sweater vest off of him. Tommy, let's talk about Coaching Carousel contract goals. Talk about how this works from your time of seeing it at EA community events.
Basically how this works is that as you go through and sign a new contract, you're presented with what your potential goals are. And, you have to review those basically to make sure that whether or not you think you can meet them. And then once you think you can, you sign on the contract. Then over the course of your contract, you're going to have goals. Some are for the actual entire length of the contract. Some are for just each individual season, things like that. But, a lot of them are stat-based, especially if you're a coordinator. Some of them even go so far as to say sign a 5-star recruit. The thing about that, though, is that all of those are going to be weighted depending upon how prestigious of a school as you're signing with. So if you're signing with a lower tier school like in Eastern Michigan, your contract goals are going to be smaller. Whereas if you turn around and sign the head coaching job at Ohio State, your contract goals are going to be pretty lofty.
A good example of that is a school like maybe Texas, for example, as compared to a school like at Texas, that 10-win mark is kind of the standard and so you're not going to get a huge boost for getting it. Obviously, if you get more than that or win the conference or national title, there's going to be a boost. However, if you're a school like Akron and you get 6, 8, 10 wins, you're going to get a pretty significant boost. Obviously, that's based off prestige, so over time that could change, but it shows that they want you to perform like the real-life teams are held to the same standard. And the way this works, if you begin as a coordinator, is that you will only be calling the plays on that side of the ball. So, for example, if you select to be an offensive coordinator at a school, you're only going to be calling the plays, and when it comes time to the defense, you can either super sim and get the results quick, or you can watch it play out and kind of feel like a coordinator stuck on the sidelines, hoping that the other side of the ball can stop the other team so you can get that ball back, go down for the winning score, that it really adds a new element to the game. And there's even a recent Kotaku article talking about how this is another dynamic, another essentially career mode within NCAA Football 12. Also with this, as we mentioned at the start of the show, all the features we're going to talk about today can be used in Online Dynasty. When you begin this coaching carousel in Online Dynasty, the commissioner can set parameters on users. For example, he can say, we can only all start at 1-star schools. This way, maybe you want everybody to be a coordinator, have to work up the ranks. If you want to start with everybody at a 6-star big program, you can do that as well. Also, if you're not a fan of the coaching contracts, of the goals, of the carousel in general, you can shut it off when you set up your Dynasty or Online Dynasty and play it out in the traditional fashion where you pick a team and you're with them for the duration of your Dynasty. And now let's get to this year's Community Wishlist Tournament Champion, Custom Playbooks. This is the one that people have been claiming for a long time. Tommy, you looked at this pretty extensively at the community events. Talk about custom playbooks.
Well, this has been one of the bigger requests that I've had for quite some time. Basically, for anybody who's not aware, custom playbooks will let you create your playbook pretty much however you want it to be. So if you're not happy with any of the team-specific playbooks that are in the game, you can simply start with a basic playbook, and then you can add or remove as many plays and formations from there as you want, building up your playbook. There are limitations, of course. You can have up to 377 total plays and 40 formations. But from there, you can basically build it as big or as little as you want it to be. Additionally, I do want to let you know that the special teams, Hail Mary, and goal line formations are going to be locked into the playbook, so you're not going to be able to edit those. But if you want to start with a specific goal line formation, for example, Florida had a unique goal line formation last year, you just simply start with Florida's playbook and then build on it from there. But again, this is one of the big things that I've wanted for quite some time. All of the existing playbooks seem to have a good sample of some of the things you want, but there always just seems to be lacking that one little thing. This will let you build it and add that one little thing in there that you want now. And then as well, you can continue to customize it throughout the entire course of the year. So if you go out and find a new play you can go out and add it. Or if, in year 3 of your dynasty, you recruit a big stud halfback, and now you want to put him as the focus of your offense, you can do that. And then the great thing about it is you can have 15 offensive playbooks and 15 defensive playbooks. So you can almost build to your heart's content so that you can build all of these various different styles and put them into separate playbooks. To go even further with that, you can actually assign these custom playbooks to the various coaches in Dynasty. So if, for example, you want to create, 10 of your custom playbooks, you want to create them so that the CPU, you remove some of the plays that the CPU can't execute quite right or something like that, you can go in and do that if you want to. Like I said, great feature. The one final note I do want to make is you can use these basically anywhere in the game. You can use them in Dynasty, in online games, whether ranked or unranked. You can use them in just regular play now.
Along with that, custom conferences coming to the game. A very deep feature, something that, to be honest, I didn't think we'd see added, based upon all of the drama and speculation we had last year when there were rumors of the Big 12 imploding and some of the teams from the South going to the Pac-10, Nebraska and other schools going to the Big 10. Well, played out when Nebraska went to the Big 10, Colorado to the Pac-10, Utah moving, BYU moving, TCU moving, some this year, some next year. Well, instead of people wondering what if and always clamoring and asking EA, will you patch in updates or changes, they give us custom conferences, a very deep feature. You can have 4 to 16 teams in each conference, and for the independents, you can have anywhere from as few as 1 team to as many as 32, so you can really change up the landscape of college football. A lot of options within custom conferences. You can set projected rivals for cross-divisional games. You can select the conference championship game location. You can pick any stadium in the game for that. You can rename the divisions. You can set if you have weekday games or not and what nights. Yes or no option for night games in November. And you can pick what week the start of conference games begin. Some of that will change depending on your conference size, but those are the options you get. You cannot remove or rename conferences. I'm guessing that's to help respect the existing conference partners that EA Sports and the NCAA have. The great news is you can edit these before the start of each season. So obviously year 1 of Dynasty will be correct. When you get to year 2, you're probably going to want to move TCU to the Big East if you want to keep it realistic. Down the line, you can go in and maybe you want to see how that Pac-16 would have worked out. Had the 4 teams from the Big 12 left. Maybe you want to recreate the Big 8, the old Southwest Conference. Maybe go back to the conference alignments we had 15, 20 years ago, put Penn State back as an independent. You can do that. Even better news, you can do this in your online dynasty. Let's combine this with coaching carousel now. So if you start as coordinators with everybody in the Sun Belt, players branch out to get head coaching jobs elsewhere. Well, maybe every year or every 2 years, you bring everyone back to the same conference. So not only were you starting out competing as coordinators, now you're a head coach. So with Carousel, if you're playing a lot of user games, somebody's going to get fired, especially if they have a very highly prestigious program. They have a 10-win goal. If they're not reaching that goal routinely, somebody's going to get fired. And I'll say this right now, as a user, you probably don't want to be that guy to get fired in a coaching Carousel online dynasty because you're going to get a lot of smack talk, probably for the rest of the year until NCAA 13 comes out. Tommy, custom conferences, get back to it. What are your thoughts on this?
As we've mentioned before, we actually had different community events that date back all the way back to January, and this in January was my big oh wow moment. Basically, like you mentioned, I didn't think it was something that they were going to touch anytime soon just because we did have a form of custom conferences. This actually goes way beyond anything we ever had in the past, and for the fact that you can customize it completely how you want it to be. So you can actually start to see how the dominoes fall. So that if you make the Pac-16, then who goes elsewhere from there? And you really can customize it to your heart's content. And like you mentioned, the fact that you can edit it after every season in a dynasty is quite huge. Just because, if no other reason, that even if you don't want to do a whole lot of landscape changes, you could have an online dynasty to where you're using all lower tier schools. And as guys come and go, you don't have to handcuff the new guys to pick a particular set of schools. They can pick any of these other schools that match the criteria you want them to, and then shift them into the new conference to join the rest of the online dynasty.
Also this week, we learned about web improvements. These are 2 features that are premium downloadable content. You don't need these to play the game or to get through Dynasty. However, they're add-ons that will only aid in your experience if you purchase them. The first one being a Web Super Sim, which is really an interactive sim. It's not the Super Sim you get on the console. It's much deeper than that. And there's also the ability to advance your Dynasty Week Online. I'll talk about that one first, and tell me you can handle the Super Sim. Advancing the Dynasty Week Online is huge. If the commissioner is out of town and everyone's done, you don't have to wait for him to come back on his business trip or family vacation. If he has this downloadable content, which would be about $3, I believe, he can log on, advance it, done. And the online Dynasty can go on to the next week and be played. Web Super Sim will allow users to play the games on their computer, essentially helping to create a PC version of NCAA football. Tommy, let's talk about Web Super Sim. It's really an interactive experience, and the Super Sim name implies a real basic thing, but it's not basic at all, in my opinion.
No, not at all. It's actually quite huge. It kind of almost ties into with sort of a coaching carousel in the aspect that you basically are doing all of the coaching from the web interface. So you're doing all the play callings, you're doing all the substitutions, you're looking at team stats, you're looking at statistics. Basically, anything you can do outside of actually being on the joystick controlling the players, you can do from this super simulation. It's almost like it's its own game mode, just because you technically, with the addition of advance from the web and then from the interactive simulation, you almost don't even have to actually put in the console game if you never want to. You can just simply continue to play the game from the website itself.
Basically, if you purchase both the Web Super Sim and the ability to advance Dynasty Weeks Online for the $6 total, you're getting a PC version of NCAA football. Now, it's not going to be as complete or as deep as the console version, as you're going to miss out on coaching carousel, custom conferences, and some of the off-season tasks and responsibilities. But still, basically, you can do your recruiting and play your games in advanced weeks on your PC. Like you said, there's a point where if you borrow a copy of the game from somebody or rent it from somewhere, you can set up your online Dynasty, and from that point on, you have a PC version of the game and you don't need to put the disc in the console, which I think for some people is going to create a whole new experience. And maybe this is something down the line, maybe it adds more people to the base of the game who play NCAA football, because now it's not just you have to be good on the sticks. Maybe for somebody who prefers more PC, text-based gaming, and don't want to play on the joysticks, now you have that experience. Coaching carousel, custom playbooks, and custom conferences among the big features coming to NCAA Football 12. For all the news and great discussion on the game, make sure to visit thegamingtailgate.com. Before we end the show, Tommy, how many days are we away from the release of NCAA Football 12?
As of June 1st, we now have 41 days remaining. A little over a month here, but we've had a lot of great information. We've still got things to look forward to, including around E3, there's going to be Road to Glory information. And then as well, hopefully soon we'll be hearing something about the demo and what all is going to be included with that.
Tommy, this is Chris. Everyone, thank you for listening to this edition of the Gaming Tailgate Podcast.